Welcome once again to today's class. If you are just joining us, this is EGS 403 Engineering Communication. And in today's class, we'll be looking at the principles of effective communication and technical expression. These are some of the principles that we will be looking at. Prof has done justice to this. This is just an addition to what she has done. So we are looking at principles of effective communication and technical expression. We'll all understand that effective communication or communication is not complete if the intended user don't understand what is being said. Take for instance, if I have three persons on the line and I want the third person to get the word photosynthesis, I now whisper it to the first person on the line. So when the first person is transmitting that information through the second person to the last person, now the first person now decides to call photo, but I called photosynthesis. So now when the second person is now translating it to the third person, the second person murdered the word. Permit me to use that. So in that case, effective communication has not happened. So we are going to be looking at what effective communication is and some of the principles that guide effective communication. We say that effective communication means transmitting information so that the receiver clearly understands the intended message. Like the instance I give, until the receiver understands the intended message, then communication or effective communication has not happened. So we have some principles that will guide us to communicating effectively. One of them is to know your audience. What kind of people are you talking to? The people you are talking to, are they in primary school? Are they in secondary school? Are they in the university? So your ability to understand the educational background of these people will enable you to tailor your words. It will make you to know the type of words to use. Take for instance, you can't go to the primary school and speak to them the same way you will speak to people in the university. So you must know their educational background. You must be able to gauge their technical knowledge. Take for instance, I can mention some technical words when I am teaching people in 400 level, but I cannot mention those same words when I'm teaching people in 100 level. You understand? So you must be able to know your audience. So if you want to communicate effectively, one of the first principles is that you must know your audience. Then another thing is, what is the expectation of your audience? You must have that in mind. What is the expectation of the audience? What are they expecting from this discussion? Take for instance, the course we are taking is EGS 403. What is the expectation? At the end of the day, what are we expected to know from this course? At the end of the day, it is expected that we'll be able to communicate effectively, and we will also be able to communicate our technical ideas in writing and in oral format. You understand? So what we are saying in essence is that one of the key principles is know your audience. Know your audience. Know your audience. So another thing that we are going to look at is you must be clear in your communication, and your communication must be concise. Your communication must be concise. Avoid ambiguity. Use simple and direct language. Until the intended user understand what you are saying, you've not communicated. Until the intended listener understand what you are saying, you have not communicated. So avoid words that are too big. Avoid words that are not necessary. Eliminate redundant expressions. Don't keep mentioning some words over and over. Eliminate them. At this point in time, it is necessary. At this point in time, is communicating the present situation. So instead of using at this point in time, you can use now. It is necessary. now simplifies at this point in time. So instead of going to use at this point in time, you can simply use what? Now it is necessary. Take for instance, instead of coming to your class and say, at this point in time, it is necessary for us to read for our EGS 403. You can simply use now. It is necessary for us to read for our EGS 403. Do we understand? So that is it. Then another thing is communication channel. You must choose the right channel of communication. If it's email, when you want to write anything formal, you send it through your email. Your technical writing, you send it as reports. Your presentation, you must use visual and interactive communication. Take for instance, in this video that I'm making for you, I am using slides for the presentation because I know that when you are seeing the visual, it will also help your understanding. Do you get me? So selecting the wrong channel may lead to misunderstanding or loss of information. So be very mindful of the channel that you are choosing. Then another key principle is feedback and active listening. Feedback and active listening. For those in electrical engineering, if you are doing control, there is something we call feedback loop. What the feedback loop is doing is to give feedback to the system. You understand? You send an output, then there is a feedback. So for any communication to be complete, there must be feedback. So we can confidently say that communication is incomplete without feedback. So every effective communicator looks out for feedback. He or she looks out for feedback. That is why if you must be an effective communicator, you must be a good listener. So you'll be able to, when you receive feedback from people, it confirms understanding. So feedback helps to confirm that the message has been understood. Take for instance, if I'm teaching EGS 403, had it been this is a physical class or this is a live class, I would have asked you, do you understand what I'm teaching? So the feedback you are giving me confirms that you have understood thoroughly what I am teaching you or what I have taught you. So for you to be able to get feedback from people, you must pay full attention. That is where active listening comes in. You must pay full attention, you must ask questions, and you must respond appropriately. Very, very important. So now let's go to professional use of English, professional use of English language. Most times, as engineers, we decide to use slangs. No. When you're writing your exams, when you're writing your technical report, use formal tone. Avoid slangs. Maintain objectivity. You understand? You know, some people use words like the results are kind of surprising. You understand? What they are trying to mean is the results are unexpected. So simply use the results are unexpected. We are not in your departmental group where you can use any word that you want. Please. Then another thing is avoid using jargon. Avoid using jargon. What are jargons? Jargons, these are specialized words. You understand? They are specialized words that you can use them at the appropriate time, but avoid using them all the time. Use these specialized terms only when the audience understands them. It is only when the audience understands these specialized words that you use them. You don't just use them because you know them. How about your audience? So when you are making use of some of these words, you can define them. That is, when you are using them in your technical writing, you can define them. I'm going to do a video about definition. So what we are saying is that in the professional usage of English, you must avoid unnecessary jargon. Then another thing is your grammar, your spelling, and your punctuation. Very important. Some persons, they can write a whole page without proper punctuation. So you must learn how to punctuate your work. Error. distort meaning and reduce credibility. Proofread all documents before submission. Poor language usage reflects a lack of professionalism. So the moment a lecturer sees your work and he discovers there are so many errors in that work, he lacks the enthusiasm to read that work. He is no longer interested in reading the work. So you must learn how to write things that are error-proof. So here are some of the principles of technical writing. Example of your technical writing is your mini project that you are doing in 400 level, your IT report, and your main project, which is in 500 level. These are some examples of technical writing. Also, the journals that you write for publication, the conference papers, all of these are examples of technical writing. So some principles of technical writing are clarity and precision. Your document must be easy to understand and they must be accurate. So every term should convey a single meaning. Avoid vague statements. Don't just make statements. That is why most times when you go online, you just copy whatever you want and you come and present to us. We will catch you. So that makes your work sometimes to be vague. You must be clear and precise. So clarity and precision is very, very important. And like we stated before, that you must be aware of your audience. Experts require less explanation. So when you are talking to expert, it requires less explanation. But non-expert need more detailed clarification. Match the level of detail to your audience. So you must take for instance, when you are defending your project, and this is a new field that you have worked on entirely. When you are talking to your lecturer, when you are presenting your report, you explain certain terms to them. You understand? Okay. Then another thing is visual aids. I've said that again. The usage of charts, diagrams, and tables enhance understanding and retention. Visuals must be clearly labeled and properly referenced. We are going to teach referencing. It's part of our course synopsis. We are going to teach it. So you must understand that. Let's look at the structure of a technical document. How does a technical document looks like? How does a technical document looks like? A standard technical document follows a logical structure from background and purpose through detailed data and analysis to a summary of key findings and recommendations. So when you are doing your technical writing, you must be able to give us background information. You must be able to give us purpose of the study. What is the purpose of this study? Why did you embark on this study? Then your work must have a body. In that body, that is where we do detailed explanation. You give us the detailed explanation of what you are doing. Maybe you are talking about how AI can now aid one in designing website. You understand? That may be the purpose of your study. So in the body of your write-up, you must be able to tell us how this is done. In that body too, you do your data, you do your analysis, and you do your discussion. That is where we now have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. Chapter 3 is where you present your circuit diagram to us. Chapter 2 is your literature review. Chapter 1 is your introduction. Do we understand it? Chapter 4 is where you do your discussion. Then chapter 5 is where you do your conclusion. And in that conclusion, that is where you have the summary of key findings. And then the recommendation you are making. The recommendation you are making. Very, very important. Now let's look at oral presentation of technical ideas. Now, you must know your audience, which we've talked about. When you know your audience, it helps you to determine the depth of explanation, the language choice, and presentation style. You know that you are presenting your project to your lecturers. You know that, okay, technically these guys are inclined. Technically your lecturers are inclined. So what do? You will know how to present to them, right? Okay, that will help you to choose your language of presentation. Take for instance, you don't just go and call a simple word when you are not supposed to. You use the right and the appropriate word for that. And then your presentation style, how do you present? The way you present to your lecturer is far different from the way you present when you were teaching when you were teaching in secondary school. So you must practice. Practice makes perfect. You have heard that statement over and over. So rehearse multiple times. Manage time effectively and anticipate questions to improve confidence and delivery. I'm using visual aids as we speak. I'm using slides, I'm using charts to help us understand. So keep them clear, simple, and not overcrowded. You can see my slides are not overcrowded. Another thing is engagement and eye contact. Very important. Some of you, when you are doing your presentation, your eyes are down. No, your eyes should be focused on your audience. I remember those days, they taught us one thing, that if you cannot look at them directly, look above their head. Do you understand? But the ideal thing is that your eyes should not be down. Your eyes, so maintain eye contact, use appropriate gestures, and encourage interaction through questions and feedback. Sometimes, let me tell you, there was a time I was doing a presentation and I was, this thing about stage fright. So what I did was, immediately I went on stage, I just did thumbs up and it made everybody to laugh. Before they could finish laughing, I've recovered myself. So you must learn how to use gestures. Very important. Very important. So here are the key takeaways from today's class. You must know your audience, tailor your content to their knowledge level and needs. That is when you are presenting. Another thing is be clear and concise. Eliminate ambiguity as much as you can. Don't use unnecessary words. Write professionally. Use formal tone, correct grammar, and define jargon. When you mention jargon, define them. Use structure and visuals. Very important, we have said that. Follow logical document structure. Support with label visuals. Then the last but not the least is present with confidence. Practice. Engage the audience and use visual aids effectively. Present with confidence. Some of you, we are very sure you know what you want to say, but you lack the confidence to say it. So how do you want us to rate you? So you must present with confidence. You must present with confidence. Present your idea with confidence. Very important. Very important. So we've said that communication is the foundation of engineering excellence. Communication is the foundation of engineering excellence. So if you cannot communicate effectively, then something is wrong. That is why you see that in engineering department, we are looking at, this is 400 level, and we are looking at communication. Because you can have an excellent idea, but if you don't have the technical know-how to communicate that idea to someone, then that idea becomes useless. So effective communication in engineering and technical fields requires a combination of clarity, structure, professionalism, and audience awareness. Mastery of both written and oral communication skills is essential for conveying technical ideas accurately and conveniently. Thank you. So this is where we'll be ending this class today. We've looked at principles of effective communication and understanding. So in our next class, we'll be looking at something different. So stay tuned. Like I said, if you have not subscribed, do well to do that now. Thank you.